God vibes only. 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 God vibes only.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
We're doing well. How about yourself? Man?
Hey, man, you know, just trying to
Doing
make.
well. How about yourself?
Doing well, man. Just trying to, make today better than the last day or whatnot, man. You know, as always, trying to get like you, my brother.
That's every day, brother. Brother, don't shoot yourself in the foot, brother. You definitely right, walking hand in hand, man. Have a walking hand in hand.
Indeed, man. So before we get too far, I want to remind you to make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell or whatnot so you can know when we go live. And this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Sidereal Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Or whatnot. We dropped the Patreon episode this week or whatnot. So make sure you go. If you're not already a patron, make sure you become a patron. Go in there, check out that episode and all the other episodes we got up there as well or whatnot. And if you are a Patreon, make sure you go check that out. Leave some comments, and stuff like that so we can, take what we doing over there to the next level or whatnot. If you want to connect with us outside of here, you can always follow us on Instagram at Cosmic Convo. That's CosmicConvo, Cosmic Convo on Instagram. You can from there you can get to my my personal Instagram page, the Instagram page for the Push It Forward Podcast Network or whatnot. And you can also connect with Rob, but more specifically, Rob, how can the people get a hold of you?
Facebook, IG at Shechem Raw, or you can hit me up at colorproofsastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed. And you got some stuff going on, right?
Yeah, classes are coming up, all 4 levels from the neophyte to the initiate to the adept to the Jyotishi level. All 4 levels will be starting on the 21st. So, of course, that's this month. So if you're interested, let me know. The rates are definitely inexpensive for now. Of course, inflation is amongst us, as we all know about these gas prices. So get at your brother because, things definitely are on the rise, but they're quite affordable. It's a 28 to 30 week course, so you get the bang for your buck. You got all kind of handouts, goodies, videos, all kind of good topics we cover, and we teach you from how to read a chart from A to Z, from 1 to 10. Each level gets better and better. So if you're interested, get at me via colorproofsastrology@gmail, or you can even get at me at Kalapurusha Astrology on Facebook, and you can even schedule an appointment with me at Kalapurusha Astrology on Facebook as well. So if you're interested, send me a DM or something. We can definitely talk about how to get you enrolled.
Indeed. So to that point, let's last episode, we did a little quick little series on global politics, mundane astrology, predictive astrology, the whole bit or whatnot. It's an interesting time. I was just going back and listening to the episode from season 1 that we did called War Declared from the Sky. Make sure you go check that out or whatnot. You got to see a lot of those things. We mentioned some of the times coming up now and some placements to look out for and different things like that. We did that episode before COVID hit. So we, we we didn't specifically say COVID, but we talked about things a major shift that will change the landscape of how we're going to operate moving forward. And then we saw the unfolding of what that turned out to be was COVID, but we definitely did point to that or whatnot. So go back and check out some of those old episodes. I was thinking about putting together like a whole like a long just put all those episodes together and just run them. You understand what I'm saying or whatnot? You could just sit back and just binge listen to them all in one like that. I don't know. We'll see. We might put that together. It'd be like a 10-hour video or whatnot. But people do that though. I've seen like I've seen that happen. So I might do something like that because it's you really when you put them all together and then you see it, you start really seeing the power of the system or whatnot. So I definitely encourage everybody to go back and check that out and stay tuned for that. I think I might put that together or whatnot. So indeed. But what do you think about everything that's folded? Just from even from the last episode that we did with this whole Ukraine Russian war and everything like that. What do you think about all the things, how they're unfolding and everything, and how it's lining up with what we've been talking about?
He said there's going to have to be a negotiation. He wants those two territories.
Right.
That's what he wants, and that gives him a foothold, kind of a backdoor, or like a way to peer in or peep in as to what's going on with the Ukraine. Of course, no NATO. That's one of the
Right.
deals. We said that, right? We said
Right.
exactly what he wanted. We gave the world his list before he gave the world his list. So
Shout out to that, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
But I was wrong on something though. They
what
did
was that?
remove the nuclear weapons. That was one of the contingencies back in the 90s for them to give up their nuclear warheads and their weapons in order to remain in a peaceful state between Russia and people. They were talking about, did they make a mistake on giving up those nuclear weapons? But they didn't have the codes, but they could have gotten the codes maybe at a later date. So they don't actually have those nuclear weapons sitting, because in fact, here's the crazy thing about it: Ukraine was, I think, third or fourth on the list as far as the amount of nuclear accessibility they had in comparison to the rest of the world. So they were beyond at one point India, right, and
Okay.
Pakistan. That's how many nuclear warheads they had access to. So of course they gave them all up for the sense of peace, right? But maybe they shouldn't have. Who knows?
I mean, they just don't have the. I mean, just even looking at their chart, you know, they're like they're a country that has to be attached to somebody or something. Like it's not. They're in a funny spot, They're in a funny space. I've seen a lot of different political commentators, a lot of people, try to state that they, think that Putin is going to lose, but they don't understand what winning to Putin is.
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's not taking Ukraine. He'll take it if he can get it, without a doubt. We know that. But that's not really what he's trying to accomplish like right now. He's trying to keep them from he's trying to get the quote unquote enemies out of his backyard.
Yeah. That's
Or
exactly what it
whatnot.
is. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a power move because Afghanistan is now free and clear. Why not keep the Ukraine free and clear?
Right. Right. So this will be interesting. I'm sure,
They're going to compromise. They will eventually.
yeah. Yeah, and it's already like, I think I said, it's whatever deal is struck, it's not going to be an easy pill,
No.
for and it's already been stated like that. I mean, you got a lot of deaths. I mean, Ukraine is war torn. You know what I mean? A lot of destroyed buildings, people displaced.
Right. 2 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's going to be a hard deal either way, and especially how the media has been portraying it. It's like this whole rally for Ukraine, but that's all. I mean, that's all just a vote of a vote of faith because they ain't putting no troops on the ground. They ain't gonna do
They
that.
don't even want to send planes over there. They're like, no.
Right? They like, man, don't even you renegades.
But
Y'all
wear
don't
our
go over there.
ties. We got our tie on for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of helps, it weakens the Russian economy. But I was surprised of China's response. China actually eventually said something. They haven't spoken out against it, but they have said they, try to establish peace in the Ukraine, which I was surprised China said anything because they got some up their sleeve. They can't wait to push the button on, and so as soon as that happens, it's gonna be a whole different ball game. If you watched last week's episode when we played that little snippet, right
I'm
from
gonna get in. I'm
yeah,
gonna get it.
and
Three times.
that's gonna be the cherry on top for the year. Watch, right? That's gonna be the one that everybody's gonna be keyed on. This will be nothing, right? This will be when Rahu enters into Aries and K2 enters into Libra, where there's no compromise. Yeah, we're gonna see a whole different ball game.
Indeed. So, indeed. So yeah, stay tuned for that for sure or whatnot. But on this episode, we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Not too much. I mean, it all connects, but we're gonna shift gears a little bit and get into one of those kind of fundamental philosophy, astrological, philosophical, type of shows, and talk about some things that you can see from studying astrology and see how it impacts society and how we actually live or whatnot. And I see no ordinary woman, she already she pointed it out or whatnot. You can see it on the on the actual show title or whatnot. We're gonna talk about gender roles or whatnot. It's a big big topic out there, especially out here just in the social media space, out in these what they call them the YouTube streets or whatnot. There's a lot of speak about the role of the genders, a lot of kind of almost gender wars out there, happening and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost kind of like you know the War of the Roses has taken place because it's just you got Kevin Samuels, you got your
Yeah,
MTRs, you got your Manosphere, you got I mean they've got so many out here now. You know, Kevin Samuels has definitely kicked it into full gear with regards to the kind of battle of the genders. And he said there's no battle. Interestingly enough, I watched him the other day, but we all know that's not true. So, um, you know, um, it's interesting because nowadays we are having a real discussion around, what is the integrity of a man and what's the integrity of a woman, you know,
right.
um, and uh, I don't want it to make it a racial issue because it's not necessarily such. It's, you know, permeated through all cultures and races now, especially because of the westernization of the world. I mean, even talking about the Ukraine and talking about different countries of that nature, they have become Western. Everything has become Westernized to a degree. Africa has become Westernized. When you look at, I mean, think about it. They're shutting down McDonald's in Russia. I mean, I
Hmm.
mean, everything has a Western feel to it. So the West has won the war in essence, right? But the gender war is now taken over because the West has, put their stamp and their kind of influence on the rest of the planet. And you know, in ancient societies, of course, this was not even a conversation because um, and of course this is in different societies. You have Romans and the Greeks and the European kind of persuasion of things, which was a little different than African and Indian societies, where the woman had a different function.
Right.
um, she had a place in the society. And we were just talking about the old cliche, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, right? Well, that's no longer the case, right?
Right.
um, I mean, they
So
just, in
that's that.
fact, they just had a thing in Florida. They're fighting on the, what is it, the don't don't say gay, right, thing. So
No, they don't want. They're not teaching They outlawed teaching sexual orientation
Taken
to
in schools, right?
in schools.
So
Yeah, or
it's
I think it was
pervasive
specifically like elementary school or like
up
you
to
know what I
third
mean
grade,
the
right? Up to
preschool
third
up to
grade,
that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm saying the roles of gender integrity have been pervasively, you know, watered down to some degree. And
Right.
astrology, for all intents and purposes, um, has, it was created in a time when, these things were fundamentally understood. There was no question about which was which.
Well, yeah,
And,
I
you
think
know,
a lot of it. I think. I mean, yeah. We talked about the difference between Western culture and melanated culture. All right,
mhm,
and as such. But another thing that's contributing to it, just speaking about the times when we discovered astrology is just technology, right?
mhm, mhm,
A lot of these things were just more close to home. Like, I mean, right now we have so many different, automations and different things that do a lot of jobs for us that, in ancient times that just wasn't that way. You understand what I'm saying? So like, a lot of things you can just call a plumber. You understand what I'm saying? You can, you got automated vacuums. You understand what I'm saying? You have it's just so many different things. I mean, cars, right?
mhm.
You understand? This is just so many things that, and just just where technology has advanced, we don't need the physical strength as much as we needed it before. So a lot of the certain, like you spoke about road integrities and different things like that are, they're not as clear because if you're not, if you just kind of focused on just the surface level things, you'll think that they don't matter anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So somebody may,
Mhm.
all right, I don't need someone to go lift this heavy thing anymore because this person does this, or I can call up Uber Eats to go bring this, and I can call up this, you know what I mean, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
start to get comfortable with the new advancements and stuff like that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Um, you know, and I don't like to parrot Kevin Samuels too often because he and I differ on a lot of things, but he does make a point that third world countries have a different set of conditions than first world countries, right?
Right.
Um, and it's true. Like you're saying, the labor issue, right? The physical. Now, here's the crazy thing, right? I saw a sister lifting 681 pounds yesterday, right?
Hmm.
I was like, wow. Like, she was like one of those power lifters. Not to say that, you know, women can't do the same things as men. Of course you can, right? There's always an exception to the rule.
That's an
Um,
extreme exception.
I was gonna
that's an
say,
that's an extreme. I mean, like,
I mean, she was serious, bro.
I
Right?
don't want
She
to meet
was
her.
she was
I
serious.
don't want to meet her.
She was
I'll see
serious,
her through
right?
the
She
screen.
she got down on that thing, man, and boom, I was like, wow, like the world is a different place now. But
We had sisters like that back then. There was sisters like that. I mean, like people try to act like people didn't exist like this back in the day. It's just that there were big women. There were women who were strong that could, you know what I mean. You had women. What's it? The whole Amazons and the you know,
Amazonians,
yeah, Amazon.
like that's
I mean,
Greek.
like, huh?
That's Greek.
Not those, but from
Oh, oh,
Angola.
oh, okay, yeah, 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 yeah. I know what you're talking
Right.
about.
You understand what I'm saying? But I mean, there were women that were, more little
Statuesque.
rugged. You understand what I'm saying? Rugged and, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I mean, we still had like I think I mentioned it once before. You know what I mean? Like my grandma wasn't quite like this, but I knew I had aunts and I had other, you understand what I'm saying? Knew other people's grandparents that had like the big kind of matriarchal figure that didn't play. You understand what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah, I mean we've always
Like
had that.
yeah,
That's a given, right? But I'm talking about 681 pounds, right, of
yeah.
lifting,
But see
and
that person might not. That person, that grandmother, ain't have time to be trying to lift 681 pounds. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Had too much work to do. So they was that aggression and stuff like that got channeled into other areas. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm,
Or
mhm.
whatnot. Six to be able to be sitting and learning how to power lift is a luxury. It's
A
definitely a
a first
luxury.
world luxury, right? Right. A first world luxury for sure.
Right.
But no, we've always had those strong women that have, backbones, that, have produced, a stronger overall character and nature. That doesn't go against gender role integrity,
Right.
because they were definitely, doing a lot of things that, for all intents and purposes, were facilitated at that time and place,
Hmm.
oriented around the role of, um, of a woman. But, and I think just because our struggle has been a little different as Africans and descendants of Africans in a diaspora, we've had to have different roles where women have played different things. And we're at war, you know what I
Right.
mean? We're not at peacetime by any means. Colonialism has not allowed peacetime to persist, even in the cultural sense of the African continent. So we're at war. Let's just lay that out for the backdrop of what we're talking about here. But outside of that, astrology definitely points to gender integrity. It just
Right.
does. And it's not, these are what we talk about cosmic or natural law. There's a thing called natural law that we have to understand. And natural law, it goes along with those same laws of physics, the same laws um, of how the universe is created. Gravity
Hmm.
is a law that you cannot necessarily you can overcome it to a degree, right? Because people say, what about people that go they're living that we put man on the moon? Well, you have to understand that
You don't
when we do
overcome it.
that,
You just you learn the law and you just use the. I mean, it's an actual. There's a number attached to it. You understand what I'm saying? Like the force
Mhm,
of gravity is like 32.2. You know, feet per second squared.
mhm,
That's pushing down on you. So that's what
mhm.
you just need to have a force that exceeds that. Yeah, but it's
Right.
still you. Yes, you don't over. You know what I mean? You don't overcome it. You just
But here's the thing.
understand the law
Let's
and
say you
work
live in
with it.
space, right?
Right.
They have cosmonauts that live in space,
Uh-huh.
right? What
Mm-hmm.
happens when they live in space, right?
Force of gravity is different.
And their bones get weaker,
Right.
right?
Right.
Their bones get weaker, right? It's not like they keep the same level of power and ability, right? Their bones get weaker, right? Their muscles atrophy. That's why if you ever see them, they're constantly exercising.
Yeah.
Their height, right, changes, right? So there's an adaptation to this, right, that happens. But
I think
when
we
you
got trouble
return
on that.
back to Earth, right,
Yeah.
you still have to, those cosmic laws have never changed. You just kind of have superseded them for a time being. And this is what we can understand in society, that you can supersede those laws for a time being. But innately, right, they still have to be represented in the longer term sense of things. And that's why, when you look at integrity of the keeping that law, right, and society has to at least address it to some degree. I know Funky Man saying he's having a question here, and if you want to present your question, go ahead and type it into the chat. We'll definitely address it when we get a chance. But
I think Funky Man might be a troll, but I give him a shot. Nah, I
it
ain't
might
gonna. Yeah. So
it might have
it
not.
happens from time to time, but you know what?
On these YouTube streets is to be expected, definitely. Um,
Indeed.
but you know, those cosmic laws stay the same, right?
Yeah.
Um, they can't really be. Uh, um, you can override them to a degree, but they always have to be right. Yeah, this is a troll, right?
Yeah.
So, um, you always have to be able to return back to that integrity of that cosmic law. And astrology deals in cosmic laws. It just does, right? Um, one of those cosmic laws talks about when we deal with this, for example, the fourth and the 10th house, right? Um, the fourth and the 10th house are integral to a chart because number one, they're called Kendra houses. And if you
Right.
know anything about astrology, Kendra houses are it's the skeleton or the kind of core or structural kind of makeup of a chart. What does that mean? Well, the first house is obviously right. It's the body, right?
Right.
With no body, there's no conversation, right? You're in the
Got it.
astral planes or inner planes, so there's no chart, right, to talk
Right.
about because there's no physical you, right? Um, the fourth house is, you know, the vehicle by which you come into this plane of existence, which is your mother.
Right.
Without that, there's no you, right? The seventh house, which is the parenting or partnering, a pairing or partnering of a individual with another individual, which again makes another individual, which is how you got here, right? It was
Hmm.
how I got here, right? So these things are necessary in the 10th house. And the 10th house is an interesting house because in India there is two different varying schools of thought. One comes from the north, and the north says that the 10th house is the father, right?
Hmm.
And the southern aspect of India or southern side of India says that the ninth house is the
Knife
father. They're
house.
both right, right?
Right.
But just looking at it from the 10th house perspective, outside of the father, you always have someone that is either over you, rules you, or commands you in some shape, form, or fashion, right?
Well,
So,
that's an interesting thing you brought up. A little quick aside, because like that distinction just shows what the culture values more, right? How do they
mhm,
pick their leaders? You know what I mean? Like, because even the northern has a more Eurasian kind of influence there or whatnot,
mhm,
as compared to the south. And then if you look at that extension over into the west, right? The west doesn't choose its leaders based on ninth house values. Choose
no,
leaders on 10th house values.
exactly,
You know what I'm
exactly,
saying? Or
right,
whatnot. So it's interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, cultures will dictate certain things with regards to how the chart is read. So, go figure. I mean, we even have a northern chart style and a southern chart style. So,
Right.
um, go figure. But just to give the benefit of the doubt to the northern aspect, let's say the father, because the father is an in position on you or over you or rules you to some degree, right? So it still has, and fatherly figures, people that lead others, stand in a type of commanding role, are fathers to you know the nations and so forth and things of that nature. So it still has some of the same connotations, but the 10th house is nonetheless right. Those powers and abilities, those things that kind of are over you, and it's also your karma, right? It's really what you owe the world and what you have to work out as far as the world at large is concerned. So those four houses are integral zones to a chart. Without them, there's no conversation about anything that's of importance. Other things outside of that, the second, third, sixth, fifth, all those things are secondary to the 1, 4, 7, and 10. Right. And again, talking about the fourth house and the 10th house, the fourth house is the quintessential, right, house, because without it, right, What do they always say? Mama's baby, papa's maybe, right? Right.
That's fun. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I had an interesting just to that point because I was when I was about to have my daughter. There's a elder Jewish lady that worked at the she one of the administrators up at the day job, and she was saying that she was like, the baby has to look like the dad. That's the only way in ancient times that people knew that it was that person's child. So she was like, if your people was always trying to figure out, if the baby's gonna look like the mom when he's like, really is always supposed to look like the dad. So that's like a
Right.
little rule of thumb that they use.
Rule
Does
of
it look
thumb,
like the
right?
dad or
Yeah.
not? Is it yours or
I don't look
not?
like you. You better check anyway. Right? Yeah. Definitely, definitely.
Indeed.
Um. So, when we talk about the fourth house, right? It's a Kendra house, and so it's one of the core kind of integral parts of a chart. It's really this. I'm not going to say the centerpiece, but it's one of the one of the areas that we look at in a chart to see if you can at least be stable in life. Right? If the fourth house is damaged, and I mean really damaged, it has to be extremely damaged, but it can be damaged. And when I say damaged, there's areas, where people come in this life and they're born with a set of challenges. Doesn't mean they can't overcome those challenges because the chart doesn't compel, it impels, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are three levels of karma in a chart. One is fixed, one is one is semi-fixed, and then one is amenable to change, right? But there are certain things that are fixed in destiny, right? And you don't choose your parents. I know what people may believe, right? And when we say choose, I mean, like, you don't go through a magazine and say, I want this feature, I want that feature, and I'd like to have this kind of thing going on. I want her to have, no, it's a default mechanism, more or less. But and they say the
It's like
soul chooses, right? The soul, right, is
it's like all right. Here's what you got to learn, and you can. This is what you. This is the environment and vehicle that you can learn this through. You want it
right,
or no?
right. So, um, when you talk about those lesson plans that the soul has to unburden itself with or to learn in order to become more refined or, closer to its natural integrity, which is, godlike, those things that we quote unquote choose are not of our own personal choosing, it's of a higher perspective. So when I say choose, it's not necessarily you choosing, right?
Options.
Right. And the fourth house is just a house that we look for to find several things. Number one, are you a very centered, grounded individual? Well, if the mother, right, which is the fourth house, and there's other ways we see the mother, right, depending on how things are set up, date, time of birth, and all those kinds of things. But the basics, the fourth house, if that house is challenged, damaged, or has some imbalances, right, we know that the birth process and also the way the child or individual is reared has some situational challenges or issues. So that fourth house has to be have a very strong setup in order for you to have a good kind of starting point, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, think about it from this perspective. Um, when we deal in life, right? If the mother is stable, right? If she's strong as far as her integrity is concerned, the child has a springboard from which to come out of that can literally overcome great obstacles. right? These are these cosmic laws that we're talking about that are inalienable. People say, what about adoption? We see that in the chart too, right? And people come from adoptive homes and do very well. But you'll notice sometimes from
Steve
the very
Jobs.
early ages, the child or individual may have some challenges with regards to the stability or the fundamental kind of setup, right, in which they manage their life. And the fourth house is much vaster than just the mother, but the mother is such an important role in the person's life that if that house is completely, utterly damaged, the person has a uphill battle, right, in life. Um, I'll tell you something interesting is that if we see the moon in the third house many times, not all the time, but I'm going to say about 7 to 8 times out of 10, the person has issues with their mother, right? If we see the moon in the third house moon, and I'm not saying every time, but I'm saying 7 to 8 out of 10 times, right? The person can be adopted, have issues with the mother. They can't live with the mother. The mother can be kind of moving around a lot. The mother can be unstable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this shows us that the moon is right in it's in the house that's right before it, but kind of shows the undermining of the integrity of that mother or the relationship with the mother. So the integral role of a mother, of the womb the child comes through, is key and important in order to be able to set life up to where that child has a good start. The father is less important, right? It's still important, don't get me wrong, right? But the father is a secondary role in the chart because we can see if that person has a good background, a good home that they come from, fourth house, right? Because the mother makes the home, right? She's the one that sets up the parameters. Does the child is the home clean, right? Did they eat on time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they do their homework? Is education important, right? Is family important, right? Those are pretty much things that we see from the fourth house, right? The fourth house also deals, just in the sense of a woman itself, it deals with the breasts, right? Just think about how intricately woven that is into a person's chart, that not only are the mammary glands part of the fourth house, because the fourth house is the part of the chart that deals with the ability to nurture, be nurtured, and to be satiated. So the integral role of a woman in life is more important than a man. That fourth house is crucial for that child to have a very fundamental healthy start, not only in the sense of just being in the world and being educated and doing well for themselves, because again the fourth house is opposite to what house?
10th.
The 10th house. So the career, the profession, the ability to be a leader, right, comes from the fourth house, doesn't it?
Right.
Right. um, so when we look at this integral roles, right, the mother had to make some sacrifices for her to be able to be in that position. Now the counterbalance is, of course, then the issues of the 10th house, which, let's saying for just devil's advocate purposes, the father, the person that is out in the world, that's out in the limelight, that's out on the scenes, that's protecting the fourth house, that's making sure that things run smoothly, that the woman can do those things without having to overcome or to succumb to great sacrifices,
Right.
right? So the 10th house also plays a very fundamental role in that regard as well. And let's say, even for the devil's advocate, let's say the ninth house is still the father, the 10th house is the father's ability to provide. It's the second house to the ninth, and the second is your bankroll, your savings, right? Your values. So the values of the father still would be the 10th house. Either way, the father is still a secondary but very important role. So the integrity of both 4th and 10th houses are crucial for an individual to come out and to be healthy and viable in this world, right? So go figure, right? That society inside of society, even in first world countries, it's still there. It's just
Right.
minimalized to a great degree, right? How do we know it's still there? Maternity leave, right? The maternity leave is important because for 6 weeks the woman at least she has to have some type of time to have the baby and to heal from having the baby, right?
Right.
Now, of course, they're starting to have paternity leave, but that's kind of this is much later in the game, right?
Hold on.
That's not even
Paternity leave exists, but it's unpaid. It's
right, right. It's
unpaid.
unpaid, right?
It's unpaid. FMLA or whatnot, Family Leave Act or whatever. You can do it. They can't fire you, but you ain't getting no paper. You're on your own.
Right. Good
Whatever.
luck, right?
Yeah, you
Hope you
got
got
your
a hustle.
PTO, whatever you can use, but
Right. Hope you got
we
a
ain't giving
hustle,
you nothing. Yeah.
right? So, but
Yeah.
the maternity leave is paid, right? Without a doubt. And so,
Right.
if society in some ways understands the basics that a woman still has to. Now, here's how it's set up in the heavens, right? Because the heavens are what we're looking at. We're not looking at some arbitrary kind of information on some piece of paper. We're looking into the night sky or the day sky whenever you're born. And the 4th house is not visible to the naked eye. You can never see the 4th house. It's underneath us at all times. It's called the nadir, Nadir, right? The nadir is underneath us. It's hidden.
You
Right?
know, it's interesting you say that, right? Because when you work on like the night sky app, and
Right.
then when you identify the ecliptic, and if you know what it is, you can experience that it being under you because the other signs are under they're under
Underneath
you.
us.
They're not.
Right. I mean,
And for y'all don't know what I'm talking about, there's one of the apps, astronomical apps that you can hold up to the sky and it shows you where the planets are in reference to the constellations and everything. And when you identify wherever the sun is rising at that time, that 4th house is going to be below from where you're at that time.
in fact, we can take a look at it now, right? Let's see, right? So, this is a good app to be able to have access to. It's called stellarium.web.org, right? And I'll share my screen when our brother we get a chance to here, right? Let's see.
Let me know if you can do it because I can do it. I can actually pull up that night sky app.
Yeah,
On my,
if you can, just pull it up. Yeah, pull it up. You can see for yourself, people, right? What we're talking about. Stellarium-web.org is an excellent one. One of my students is so fun. So when you take a look at this website is phenomenal. It's one I use in my courses to show, and it shows the actual positions of the planets in the sky. So for all you Western tropical astrologers, right? Sorry, folks, it's not going to render what you say. I'm going to turn the sound down a little bit. There we go.
all right.
So he might be able to do a landscape where you put the landscape on, and it's going to block out, right, a great portion of the sky so that you can't see. So right there, the sun is underneath us, right? That's the 4th house. You see, the
Right.
sun
I'm
is in
pointing at the
Aquarius,
ground.
right? It's not in Pisces yet, right? It's still in Aquarius, right? So there is the horizon, right? There is due east, right? So what we're looking at is like a city line or a city skyline. When you go down and look underneath, that's the fourth house. The sun is literally in the fourth house, especially if we're looking at it from the East Coast perspective, right? It's actually
Right.
midnight, right? At midnight is when the sun is at the nadir. It's in the fourth house. So,
Right.
right, go figure, right? That the way this is designed, the cosmos is designed just like the body. When a woman is pregnant, right, that is considered the fifth house, the womb. The fifth house is directly next to the fourth, right? Right. So, considering, right, that fifth house is underneath and it's hidden just like the womb is hidden. So when we talk about gender integrity, we're talking about astrology from a level that these are cosmic laws that stipulate how life is created. And if we're not understanding how these laws work and being are able to at least render something of that nature in society, society is going to be perpetuating a failure in the long-term sense of things. And I mean, you got to understand, look at this from this perspective. When I was growing up, right? And some of you may be my age, or you may be a little older, some be a little younger. But for the most part, when I was growing up, right, the child was seen and not what?
Heard.
Heard, right? Meaning you were silent to the background. You didn't, come out and say things and speak out of turn, right? You addressed your elders in a certain way. This comes from a strong fourth house, right? Where the woman is teaching the child certain fundamental values as far as life is concerned, and
Right.
the father as well. I'm not going to negate the father by a long shot, but I'm saying the first teacher of the child is the mother. It's the fourth house, and the fourth house also stands for, guess what? Education. Right. Your first education is in the home. What do they always tell you, right? The teacher would tell you, I'm here to teach you, but you got to go home and do the work, because at home is where you're going to begin to ingest it and learn it and to be able to make it your own. In
Right.
class is just an exchange, but that's why you give you homework, right? Called it
Right.
homework for a reason. If you had a mother that was able to help you, walk you through, give you certain lessons and pieces of knowledge, you had a strong upbringing. And the people that had strong upbringings had respect, decorum, they had a trajectory in life. They had the 10th house across from it that allowed them to catapult themselves into some position of authority. That's from a strong fourth house, a
Right.
strong mother, right? So now the lines are blurred so much that now our children are being taken to daycare, right? From a very, very, very early age, right?
Yeah.
Right. And who knows what's being imparted psychically, right? Subliminally, right? Because the child is still very open. The fontanel of the child, which is that part of the head that connects to what was called the Sahasrara or the GV, or the GV20, right, which is that called the Bai Hui, which is
Hmm.
literally that top part is the psychic center, right? It's being in taking in vibes and energies and things of that nature. So now the child has very, what, this 4 or 5 hours to spend with the mother, because the now society in a first world construct is violating certain roles of integrity with regards to man and woman.
Right. And I mean, and it's still regardless of all of these different, kind of variations of upbringing, rearing, child rearing that we're seeing. I mean, all the data still points that these certain fundamentals still put out better they still yield better results.
They
all
do.
all the data points to that, or whatnot.
They do. They do.
you know
And this is true. This is universal, what? Cosmic what? laws.
Laws, right?
So, we talking we hear kind of Kevin Samuels and things like that. I honor that part of what he says because some of those things are true that in order to really become a strong nation, a strong people, a strong community, right? Someone is going to have to do something a little different in the long-term sense of things.
Right.
Something's going to have to get back to basics, right? And it's unfortunate that we are having these gender wars, right? Where now we're talking about, well, I can have it all, right? You can have it all, but not all at once,
Right.
right? There should be 4 or 5 years you take off to be able to take and inculcate the child into a very stable environment, right? It's just
You know,
necessary.
it's interesting. I mean, just even talking about that fourth, 10th house thing, right? Because I think I might have mentioned this in one of our earlier shows, but it's said that women develop agriculture,
They do.
right? So like while we were out hunting, you understand what I'm saying? Getting the gazelles and the wildebeest and stuff like that, they was back. You know what I'm saying? At the base, which is fourth house, and then they develop, learned how to cultivate the seeds, the agriculture, which is also like a fourth house thing as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're equally as important because we were out doing this, and that was helping us to have sustenance. You know what I mean? But also, they played their role and gave us an ability to even more of a fourth house things to be able to stand stable, to be able to
I
sit
mean,
in
think
one
about it from
place,
this perspective. The fourth
right?
house is education.
Yep.
The moon has directional strength, right? In the fourth house, right? Think about that for just a second, right? The lunar cycles, right? Which is one of the primary ways we could tell time to be able to know the seasons and how to be able to yield crops is based on the fourth house,
Right. Right.
which is in it, it's intuitionally a feminine thing because
Yeah.
she of course knows her cycle. She knows that there is another cycle that ties in with that cycle. And we of course know that the moon, right, has a certain ebb and flow over the course of the year. Of course, the sun does as well, but they
Hmm.
tie because it's a solely lunar cycle. And so at some point, hey, this is when we should plant. This is when we should harvest, right? These are things that innately come through in inner knowledge, which is called apara vidya, APARA vidya. It's knowledge based on the world itself, right? And this is what the woman, the woman that has integrity, that has a strong connection with that which is the earth. Of course, the fourth house is underneath the earth, which when you plant things, you plant it what?
Right.
Underneath the earth, right? And it comes up and comes out, right? So astrology has a very, very integral science to it to be able to understand life itself. Life is not just arbitrary. These are things that are cosmic laws. You cannot change these. You can try, you can adjust, but at some point you have to, because think about the way society is now. Now children don't have a proper upbringing. They will say anything to you, right? If you're on the bus, right? On public transportation, on the train, on the rail, they'll say anything to you. They will. I sit there and I'm like, you do you know how old I am to you? I don't care how old you are, you ain't my daddy, right? Or if I said something like that, I was scared to say something like that back in the day to an adult, right?
Right.
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 So, you know, the way, and then of course the crime rate, right? The crime rate is tied into this, right?
Yeah.
Right. Of course, the ability for people to have take fundamental pride in what they do on a daily basis. Because if you took pride, the mother was the person that you made proud. Mother, look what I did, look what I produced, look what I've done. Now it's like to the wind. She's busy. right?
Well, I mean,
I have IG, right? I have, you
I
know,
was I was just telling somebody about this because uh, me and my brother we're pretty hot. We can be pretty hot, but you know our mom always worked like in juvenile court, juvenile detention center and stuff when she was when she was incarnated and everything. She always worked in that, and we always like we had all the opportunity to be getting in all types of stuff as when we were younger, but we never did it because we didn't want to embarrass mommy at work.
your mother. I'm trying to tell you
Whatnot.
because there was an integrity zone there.
Right.
Now, man, look, the kids, the children nowadays are completely just unruly, right? They
Right.
have no sense of integrity. They have no sense of barriers. The fourth house is barriers, right? Boundaries, right? So the
Right.
integrity of the woman is crucial because she's the catapult, she's the slingshot for society, right? The man is the litmus test, and of course, the litmus test has now become the slingshot, right? Things are asked backwards, right?
Right.
Now it's how can I get, and it's nothing wrong with a woman. Like I said, you can have it all, just not have it all at what? At
Hmm.
once. You stage life out. Life has stages. There's a certain level of time or a certain point of time when that integrity should be there for the woman. I mean, think, and you have to understand nature itself. Now, I'm not saying children should be having babies at 13. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that nature designs the human body to have children in their youth, right? The older you get, the more risk a woman takes with her own life to have
Right.
children. Nature knows things that the supreme being puts these things in, it instills it into man, into woman. So there's no guesswork. When you begin to have puberty and hair, like we had rites of passage that we would put you through to train you to become part of society.
Right.
You got to understand, and we have babied ourselves to a degree. In African culture, you were considered a young adult as soon as you went through rites of passage. You were a
Right.
young adult. All that childish stuff, you know, and here's the thing, Jewish culture, even Latina culture has it. They have a quinceañera, right? I'm talking about these are older cultures. The Jewish people have what's called a bar what? Mitzvah,
Mispa. Yeah.
because
One of
there's
my
some integrity, you know.
right. One of my partners, the ones who do it right, you brought, the Hispanic culture. One of my Mexican partners, he's older than me, but we're cool or whatnot. He basically, was able to. I mean, he dropped out of he dropped out of middle school
Mhm.
and started working with his dad and his uncle. You know understand what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they put, you know what I mean? Like they and all of that family that I know, they all kind of did similar things. You know what I'm saying? And now, he owns the construction company now. You understand what I'm saying? They're building
Yes.
Walmarts,
And his father,
supermarkets,
right?
shopping centers. Yeah.
Yeah, father with that level of integrity,
Right.
right? To be out there doing the things that they needed to be doing to make
Hmm.
sure that the fourth house stayed in a certain level of integrity.
Right. Right.
Certain cultures understand this innately and
Hmm.
they are very successful in what they do in society. You know, um, you know, China is a little different, but even China to some degree has it. And you think they don't, but they do. Because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? When they come here, they compete. It's a competition. But
Right.
in the old country at home, right? It's still there. A lot of rural areas, a lot of things, and a lot of people that come from those rural areas because they already know the basics, the fundamentals. They have a now. You talk about respect and honor. You better not be dishonorable
Mm-hmm.
in an Asian culture, especially in China or Japan, right? You will be ostracized, right? Now, of course, it's a mixture now, right? Things have changed to a great degree. But I'm saying, even still, there's an honor system that's there, right?
Right.
Because the woman, the home, right, the whole family structure, it still has some centerpiece that it operates out of. If you watch the movie Shang-Chi, right, right, and good movie, Marvel movie,
Mm-hmm.
who was at home, right,
I haven't
right?
seen Shang-Chi.
Watch Shang-Chi, right?
I saw the movie, but I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it yet.
In the home, the grandma was in the home. They set a place for grandpa,
Right.
right? And she said, "Oh, why don't you get married?" Right? Right? Even in the movie, right? The Asian girl said, "My mother would be shocked if she saw this, that, and the other." That's in the movie, right? Shang-Chi, right? They have a respect for their ancestors, right? This is all fourth house stuff,
Right.
10th house stuff, right? We talk about Digbala, directional strength. Guess what house the sun gains strength in, right? The 10th house, right? It gains strength and power, directionally speaking, in the 10th. That's just
Mm-hmm.
one of the strengths called Shadbala that we use to gauge the integrity of a planet, the strength of a planet. Another way we gauge it is called Kalabala. And my students will be learning this in the Jyotish level classes that we're going to be teaching here on the 24th, starting on the 24th. But Shadbala is a way we measure the strength. Kala is time, Bala is strength. Well, guess what? The moon has strength at what? At night,
Right.
when the yin powers are at play. The sun gains strength during the what?
A
During the
day.
day. So the sun becomes weak at night and the moon becomes weak during the what? During the
A
day.
day.
So they even show you that within the sense of measuring the strength of a planet, those planets have to have certain time positions to be stronger than the other. This is the basis of how things are measured based on cosmic laws, natural law. So when we talk about this, it's not to say that, we don't honor and respect all roles and positions and all abilities that all people bring to the table, because women can do things just as well as men can. But at the same time, what are we gaining and what are we losing by having everyone doing everything at the same time in the same way? There's something being mismeasured or being lost here. And so what we can do is set up possibly society or societal structures where, if we are intelligent in the future, if we understand how things work and we can get back to basics, right? Let's set
Mm-hmm.
up a time frame where the feminine energy is honored and uplifted and cherished and worshiped to even some degree, so that that role takes itself, we get back to that fundamental role, because the hand that rocks the cradle does rule the world when it rocks the cradle.
Right. See, that's the thing. The Western culture has devalued the
It
domestic
has.
life, has devalued domestic work. It's low. It's looked at as lowly work. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And like I mean, that's to me. If you ask me, that's what created feminism,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Because you wanted like some of like the talking points that they use is say, back in the day we were doing all types of unpaid labor, right? So that I mean, you took raising the
Unpaid.
kids,
Yeah.
cooking, unpaid labor, right?
Mhm.
you know um my grandparents on my father's side, that was a more of a traditional household. My grandma never really had to work at all or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But, she had, my grandfather had money that he gave to her every time she
Yeah.
had, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She took care of ABC. Dinner was done at this time. All in between
Structure.
time, she did whatever she wanted to do. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
And
whatnot.
everything ran smoothly. Not a hiccup.
Right. You know?
Not a hiccup.
So it's like, and it was valued. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was appreciated. You understand what I mean?
Right. Right. Now it's like, do what? By what time and what? You better get yourself a microwave sandwich, right? Right. You better go in there and get you one of them what do you call it? Hungry man dinners, right? Right. And good luck.
Oh
Right.
man. Trash. Yeah, man.
It's way we're
Yeah.
off base. We're way off base with this whole Western world thing. And
Right.
the West is not bad. It's just out of balance. Like the East is not bad, not all good, right? East has a lot of things to learn, and the West has a great deal of things to learn. And the merging of the two, even when you look at, just for example, Chinese medicine deals with things that are, and I'm talking about just not Chinese medicine, I'm talking Ayurvedic medicine as
Hmm.
well. They deal with things from a long term perspective, and it's not a magic pill you can pop, right?
Right.
Acupuncture takes weeks, if not months, to change the structure of an individual. It was a Asian Chinese doctor. She was talking about Shin. Shin, for those of you that don't know, is the mental aspect of an individual, the spirit, right? And she was telling a story about a guy that came to her, and he couldn't take herbs because he was so imbalanced. He was completely frail, like weak, right? So if she'd have given any herbs to him, it wouldn't have really had an effect. So she had to open his channels up. And when she opened his channels up, she said, little by little, right? Came back. His eyes began to have a little bit more light to them. That's how you can tell the shin within individuals. The eyes, a great deal of is they open up. Then he began
Right.
to take a little bit. He could eat a little bit more, and then he could actually take herbs. Then he could eat food. Then he could do things. This is a gradual process, so it's a slower process. It's a time oriented process, which is yin, right? Yin is time, right? Okay, yang is instant. So that time oriented process, he got back to work. He got back to being healthy again. The Chinese medical approach and the Ayurvedic medical approach takes time. So you can't go in and just take a pill. You got to change your diet. You got to change your ways. You got to change your lifestyle, right? That
Right.
works because it cures chronic illnesses. Whereas in the West, it's a pill popping thing, right? Give me a pill because I'm ready to go, right? I got to get back to work, right? I can't sit down and rest. I can't sleep. I can't internalize. I can't change the course of what I'm doing,
Right.
right? And
The
the
what the
West
West
has,
is like America. The United States, America is like this, right? To me, it's not. It's like there's a general system, but it's not. It's like if you don't have a system on your own, you work for the corporation, right?
yeah,
You work for the corporation.
hmm
You know, so the corporation is about is capitalistic. Is you have to run that mill, right?
hmm
But if you smart cultures, what they do is they're like, okay, we're gonna come here, we're gonna level the corporation to feed what we got going on over here or
right.
whatnot, because you don't have to follow that paradigm.
No,
That's
you
that's
don't.
the that's the best. That's the bright side of the West, right? You don't have to do that, but
hmm
you got to figure a way out how to do what you want to do.
Right,
You understand what I'm saying
right,
or whatnot?
right. And
Get
you said it. You said your Mexican friend
hmm
has community,
right.
right? That's your way
Shout out to
out,
the homie. Shout
right?
out to him.
That's your
he
way
on he
out
on
is
he on a
community.
whole block right
Yeah,
now.
that's your way out is community,
Right,
family,
right,
bringing things together. Now, I hate to say this, and I don't mean to be doom and gloom, right? But the way things are headed, the pendulum can swing so far, and then it has to come back to the other side. So what we're witnessing is the overexpansion of this particular kind of growth oriented process we're dealing with in the West. Everything's growing fast and quickly. It's going to slow down, because if you understand how things work, the Aquarian age is ruled by what planet? What planet primarily?
Saturn.
Saturn, right? Saturn is going to slow, it's going to consolidate, it's going to bring things back into the fold, right? Watch, right? You're going to have to deal with the community that you live in. You're going to have to be communal plumbing oriented, community gardening, right? It's going to get that way, because the way the earth is going, especially with global warming, with the way the sea levels are going to be rising, all these changes are going to happen, right? You're going to have to swing back to the opposite end of the pendulum, right, to be able to maintain society. People are having to live together now more than they have had to live together in the past 50 years.
Right. I mean, we're getting. You mentioned it just now. We're getting a taste of it, and we're getting a bigger taste of it now because, like, just tying back to what we've been talking about the last couple of episodes, the United States has to make a decision on: do we diminish our external presence in the world, or do we focus on domestic needs? That's the decision, right?
You can hoorah all you want, but
Right.
you better not drop a trooper over there, right? Or you will
Right.
get the likes of a recompense that history has not seen, quote unquote, right? So they know. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah, you might hoorah and wear your little ties and your red and yellow but handkerchiefs and your flags and all that, but you better not drop a trooper over here. You better not send NATO, because if you do, right, he was I can't remember the Larkovsky, I think it's I want to say Larkovsky. He's like, look, it's gonna be a nuclear problem here. And that is the ultimate avoidance, because it's been 77 years since the nuclear weapon has been used. So
Last and only nuclear
only,
weapon used.
right? So, it's trying to avoid that at all costs, right? But again, the pendulum is swinging, right? It's slow, and we still got a long way to go, because there's going to be more extremism. There's going to be more of the imbalances that happen. But when it gets to the tipping point, right, and the society way the economics is going to work, you're going to have to live. The children are going to be in your home till 30 to 35 now, right? Ain't none of this 18 and see you, right? That's done, right? That's over, right? That was in my era, right? When you was 18, I was ready to go, right? I was high footing it out of there. I mean, I was already out the door at 17 trying to skirt on, right? But now, no, it's going to be 25 to 26, and then it's going to get to 30. Watch, because society is the cost of living. Everywhere you go, the cost of living is increasing, and the pay is not what increasing in commensurate in hand in step with the cost of living. So your children are going to be at home longer.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to be, because, and I think we is on the schedule. We'll talk about it, but it's just labor. Labor itself. The more and more advancements that we have, the less and less labor we're gonna need. Right.
Right.
Like, even at my day situation, right? I've automated. Like, I needed an admin. You know what I'm saying? They was hesitant about giving it to me, and I automated an admin. I had to create one. You understand what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So it's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're watching us, you're listening to this podcast, what you should pull from this is understand how the world is shifting and how you need to move accordingly. Of course, couple that with everything else that you got going on, but you need to know where the tide is going, right? When they talk about you're either going to be rich or poor, is either you're going to be somebody who is owning the means of generating of income, or you're trying to collect the income. That's going to be a poor person. More and more a person that's getting a paycheck is going to be poor. You understand? Right. You're going to have to own the means of something. You understand what I'm saying? To be able to actually survive in the world. You understand what I'm saying? Moving forward or whatnot. That's the difference. That's the difference now, right? There are very little people who are earning a paycheck that pays enough to be able to, you know what I'm saying, live a life
Oh,
that you know what I
relationships
mean?
are going to work out a lot more now, aren't they?
Exactly.
Mm. It's cheaper to
You know,
keep her, as they say, right?
right. And the
Right?
government ain't you know, they
Mm-mm.
the government only they ain't trying to do too much. They you know what I mean? The government's getting, you know what I mean? It's like you
Every
on your
time they
own,
raise the
player.
minimum wage, it's an insult,
Right.
right? Because it's never at the level in which society is. It's never at the
But
same level.
it's a what they call it, a effort of futility or
Mhm.
whatever. Because if you raise the all right, me, business owner, if you say that I have to pay, if I'm hiring this person and I gotta pay them $13.50, then what does that mean? If I can't afford to pay them $13.50, that person is working less hours. So at the end of
That's
the day,
right.
they're probably gonna take home the same amount of money anyway.
Exactly. You gotta
Right?
cut the fat somewhere. Yeah.
I've even heard foolish people, like, and I don't want to go a whole political twinge, but I heard foolish, like, kind of like young, liberal commentaries and stuff talking about some, well, if you can't afford to pay that, should you be in business? Have you ever started a business before,
Right.
man? What are you
Right.
talking about, man? You don't start off, jump off the porch, making big money to be able to pay somebody
Yeah.
the world. But
That's
anyways,
that
that's
fourth
all I gotta
house
say about
again,
it.
right? Because again, the common sense, which is fourth house,
Right?
is not that what?
Comment.
Not that common. Right. Mothers at home, it's not that common, right?
Right.
Family structures and family viability is not that common, right?
Right.
So, this is, when you look at astrology, right, we can see certain things. If you're fortunate enough to have a strong fourth house, right, and we'll probably be seeing less of it as we go, right? But yeah, it's crucial, right? It's indispensable, right, for society to be able to have a healthy, viable human being, right, and being able to create viable communities and societies without honoring that integrity and getting back to the basics, right? So if, like my man said, right, and the thing is that we're gonna have to find a different way, right? We're gonna have to find, creative solutions will be able to replace that integrity as we go. And there are solutions. It's just sometimes we don't want to deal with those solutions because we have to sacrifice a little over here or pinch a little over there to be able to do them. But we can, right? And if we're wise enough, to understand that these cosmic laws don't change, right, we will adhere and follow and at least try to uphold those laws to the best of our ability. So definitely take advantage of this knowledge because it's there to teach you how to survive long term. This is how dynasties were built. This is how civilizations were constructed based on these archaic principles. So by all
And
means, right. This is
absolutely.
definitely a well needed conversation.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. I mean, like with my daughter, she that's what she has. I mean, like, and you just see it. You can see somebody in the chart and say, they're gonna be, bright. They're gonna know. But then
Hmm.
it doesn't drop out of the sky.
No,
Something has to happen to make that happen. You understand? And thus far,
right,
she's pretty much with her mom and grandma about 90% of the time.
right.
Her whole
I
life. That's
I
it,
read the comment that she smushed your wife in the face. I was dying, right?
Right.
Just like,
Yeah, she's a
not
trip.
today, right? Right.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
do it to me too.
Yeah.
She hit me with the side, like when she's, you know what I mean? When I come home, she, big kiss, big hug. But when she's like on the iPad or whatever, she'll be like, yeah, I'll be like, give me a kiss. She'll go, give me a side kiss. Like the little cheek, like when they don't, she'll
Right,
give me
right,
a
right,
side
right,
kiss. Like, all right, go on. All
right.
right.
Get on about your business now. Yeah. That's funny.
Right.
That was funny. That was hilarious.
Yeah, she a trip. But she
Indeed.
gets she gets a lot of time with mom and then grandma about 90% of the time. You understand what I'm saying?
And
So
look at that
she's
fourth
learning
house.
so much.
Look at that
Yeah.
fourth house, right? It's it's set up well.
Right.
So
The fourth for her is that fourth lord
yeah.
is strong.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. It's there, right?
Yeah.
It's there. So, use this knowledge, people. Get your families right, get your, children right. One of the things I admonish is for a woman to, because she's the first teacher teaching the daughter how to cook, how to clean, how to be organized, how to stay on task, how to get things done. And it's not always necessarily telling, it's really what? Showing, right? And
Right.
demonstrating, right? And then you'll notice that that your grandchild has a better shot. And then your great grandchild has a better shot, right? And so you've
Right.
eliminated and cut a lot of the craziness out just by doing certain fundamental things to raise that first layer of what it is to have a child in the right way, especially your daughters, right? Because
Right.
daughters are the key role of that fourth house, and it transmits down generational lines.
And see that fourth house matters. I think I said this, but I mean they're not 10th house activities are not better than fourth house activities. They're
No,
not better. You
no,
know, like you hear someone say, "You want me bare feet and pregnant?" It's like, no, you're not saying that, but I mean,
hmm
cooking. Everyone eats. Everyone
right,
needs a place to stay.
right,
Everyone needs nurturing. Everyone like we don't. There's no 10th house stuff like you were, putting out earlier. There is you can't do any 10th house stuff without any of this stuff with any of this fourth house stuff happening at all.
right,
How you gonna get where you gonna get the energy to go out and hunt without
right,
nourishment, without
right,
sleep, without these things? It's just not gonna happen. So it's just like I hope a lot of this, you understand, like you mentioned Kevin Samuels and stuff like that. My hope is that these things brings that back into focus. Like, look, you don't have to chase career and status and different things like that to be valued in society. You understand what I'm
right,
saying? Like then it's not better. It's just different. It's a
right.
different role, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. That's why, those conversations are needed at this
Right.
crucial hour that we're dealing with things that, the positive to some degree with COVID is that we have been at home more. Not to say we've been focused on home more, but we have
Uh-huh.
been at home more, right? You
Right.
can't go out to the movies, so you'd have to find things in the home to do. Watch a movie together, eat some popcorn together, play a game together, look at each other, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a positive to every negative, and that positive has been more of the home front being. I mean, isn't it interesting that Kevin Samuels blows up in the process of when this thing kind of happens? When
Right.
COVID is hit, and now we all have to look at each other and ask certain fundamental questions, right, as to whether or not how we're going to do this and do it long term. So
Indeed.
it hopefully is a positive outcome. Not to say he and I agree with Kevin Samuels on that because we've already broke his chart down pretty well, to some degree. So we kind of know his inner plights and challenges as well. But he has some valid questions, and people that are talking about these topics and putting them on display, even from a female's perspective, from a woman's perspective, it's all very relative, so that we can come to a bridge and cross it to get to being a better society and better community and better family. So, that's what this whole conversation really was about is, how do we look at these things from an astrological perspective, and how do they tie into the real world? So thank you all. We definitely appreciate y'all coming out and tuning in. Spread the word, send it out to your friends, families, and so forth, so they can also understand that astrology is not just all about, foretelling and forecasting and things of that nature. It's also about understanding very fundamental basics of life and being able to use those things to navigate our future.
Absolutely. Indeed. Indeed. So as always, this episode has been brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all or whatnot. This has been episode 108. We will be back next week with another great episode, for you or whatnot. Make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to Brother Rod's channel too. You can get to it from here. Caliprusha Astrology is subscribe there, and also subscribe to my Ninth Lord Films channel as well, or whatnot. We got some good things coming up on there or whatnot. So definitely stay tuned for that. All right, Rod, you got anything you want to say before we out?
No, just be safe and be well, people.
Indeed. Well, we'll be back next week. Another great episode. All right, everybody be safe out there, and peace. We're out.
Peace.